The stars above Thalkur burned gently. It was a peaceful world, full of soft winds, glowing trees, and oceans that sang at night. The Thalkuri people, tall and gentle, had never known real war. Their cities floated in the sky, powered by clean energy and filled with quiet music. For thousands of years, they had lived in peace. But now their skies were on fire. Dreknar warships, black, sharp, and loud, filled the orbit. From above, they rained fire down on the floating cities. The Thalkuri defenses were weak. Their shields were made for storms, not missiles. Their guards carried stun sticks, not weapons of war. Chancellor Viril stood in the high tower of the Harmony Council, watching his home burn. "We must send the signal," he said, his voice shaking. "But to who?" asked First Speaker Tal. "Our allies are light years away. They may never come." "Anyone who hears," Viril whispered. "Anyone who can help. We send it now." They turned to the signal master, who had not used the emergency beacon in over 1,000 years. He entered the ancient code, a wide range. Distress call meant for their trusted allies. The message was short and clear. "To allies of Thalkur, we are under attack. Enemy fleet overwhelming. Civilians dying. Coordinates attached. Please help us." The signal master hesitated. "There is a chance others may hear this. Unknowns." Viril closed his eyes. "Then we pray the unknown is kind." The beacon launched. Meanwhile, 32 light-years away, Earth orbit. A Terran response station picked up the strange signal. AI filters decoded the language in seconds. The message lit up the station's emergency screen in red. Captain Marin of the Terran. Fleet read the message. "Distress call from Thalkur," she said aloud. "Never heard of them." Her co-officer, a tall man with cybernetic eyes, frowned. "Attackers identified as Dreknar. We've clashed with them before. Ugly lizard types. Like Conquest." Marin raised her brow. "Why send the message to us?" The officer shrugged. "Wasn't meant for us. Must have bounced through a wormhole relay. Lucky, I guess." She stood. "Send it to Admiral Reyes. Terran Command War Room. Earth Admiral Elias Reyes, commander of the Terran Response Fleet, was known across human space as the Iron Ghost. He was old, calm, and terrifying in battle. He watched the message play in silence. "Civilian loss. Enemy fleet in orbit. Minimal defense," he said slowly. "Classic Dreknar behavior." "They're not part of our alliance," said an aide. "We don't owe them anything." Reyes stood, voice steady. "They asked for help. That's enough." The room fell silent. "Mobilize the 7th Fleet," Reyes ordered. "Full combat loadout. We're going in." Thalkur. 3 days later, Chancellor. Viril stood before a cracked mirror. His robes were torn. His eyes were hollow. The Dreknar had taken the Sky Harbor and 2 floating cities. Thousands were dead. The Thalkuri had never known such loss. Suddenly, alarms sounded. "A new kind, not from the Dreknar systems. Unknown ships entering orbit," shouted a technician. "Large fleet! Huge! 17 signatures!" "Dreknar reinforcements?" Viril gasped. "No, not Dreknar. Something else. They're gray metal. Massive. And..." The technician paused. "Armed. In orbit. Terran fleet arrival. 17 massive Terran warships dropped out of slipspace in tight formation. Their hulls were covered in black armor. Cannons glowed blue. Fighter swarms launched like insects. Admiral Reyes sat on the bridge of the TNS. Vengeance, watching the data scroll in. "Target scans confirmed," an officer reported. "Enemy fleet present. Defensive shields on the planet weak. Civilian zones detected." Reyes nodded. "Begin Operation Iron Shield. Thalkuri Council Hall." The sky cracked with thunder. The Thalkuri looked up to see Dreknar ships exploding. Not from inside, but outside. Blue energy beams sliced them in half. Fireballs lit up the clouds. Then, small metal pods fell from the sky, thousands of them. "What are those?" whispered Chancellor Viril. The pods opened. Humans stepped out, tall, armored, faces hidden behind black visors. They moved in squads, fast and silent. Drones flew above them, scanning. The humans didn't speak. They began setting up shield barriers around hospitals, schools, and shelters. The Thalkori watched in shock. "They're protecting us?" one asked. "Field commander's report?" Human. Ground Unit Sergeant Dax, a battle-hardened Terran Marine, moved through the broken streets of Telron City. His squad flanked him, 10 elite soldiers in exosuits. Visual on Dreknar patrol, his HUD blinked. "Engage?" asked a young trooper. Dax nodded once. Seconds later, the Dreknar squad was gone. Stunned or dead, no human injured. "Keep moving. Civilians first," Dax ordered. They reached a Thalkori medical dome. It was damaged, burning. He kicked open. The door lifted a wounded alien child and handed her to the medic drone. "Don't worry, kid," he muttered. "Deathworlders got your back." Thalkori reaction. The council didn't know what to think. These new beings, humans, fought. Like demons, but protected like angels. They didn't ask for payment or even permission. They just came. And the Dreknar, they were running. One council member whispered, "What? Are these creatures?" Viril answered, watching the sky as Terran ships moved like sharks. "Deathworlders," he said quietly. "Beings from a world so harsh. Only the strongest survive." On board the TNS Vengeance, Reyes received a call from the Thalkori. Their language translator worked now. "This is Chancellor Viril," the voice said, full of fear and awe. "We did not expect this kind of help." Reyes smiled slightly. "You asked for help. That's what we do. You destroyed half the enemy fleet in hours. Your ground soldiers, they're unstoppable. We train hard. Earth is not a soft place." The alien hesitated. "You are not like our allies." Reyes looked at the burning horizon. "No, we're not." Final scene. Part 1. And the Dreknar. High Command receives a single message from their forward unit. Thalkor no longer vulnerable. Unknown species intervened. Casualties 85%. Request full retreat. They are humans. The Dreknar General snarls. "Who are these humans?" His advisor shivers. "They come from a death world, my lord, and they bring death with them." The skies above Thalkor were still smoking. Fires burned in the floating cities. Thousands of Thalkori were injured, homeless, or afraid. But something strange had happened. The Dreknar, once unstoppable, were now retreating. Because of the humans. No one in Thalkori history had seen beings like them. Their ships were sharp, fast, and huge. Their soldiers were tall, silent, and covered in black armor. Their weapons were like thunder, their machines like nightmares. And yet, they had come to help. At least that's what they said. High Council, Chambers. Day 2. After arrival, Chancellor. Viril sat at the long crystal table, facing a group of worried council members. "They saved our cities," said Speaker Tal. "They stopped the Dreknar, but they landed without permission," another said. "They attacked before speaking to us. That is not the way of peace." "They walk like soldiers," whispered an elder. "They look like conquerors." Viril raised his hand. "They answered our call. That much is true, but we must speak to them. We must know what they want." Aboard the TNS Vengeance, Terran Fleet Flagship Admiral Elias Reyes stood in the command room studying the battlefield map. Most Dreknar forces had been destroyed or scattered. Human soldiers had set up safe zones around Thalkori cities. Drones flew in the sky, scanning for threats, but Reyes knew war wasn't the only problem. "We still haven't had proper contact with their leaders," he said. "They're nervous," said Captain Marin, who stood beside him. "We look scary." "We are scary," Reyes replied. "But that's why they're still alive. Should we wait for them to call?" Reyes shook his head. "No, I'll go down myself. Time to talk." Thalkuri capital. Arrival of the Admiral. A dark shuttle landed near the council tower. It hissed open, and Admiral Reyes stepped out with 2 Terran guards. He wore his black command coat, medals shining across his chest. His face was serious, but his hands were open. Thalkuri guards backed away. Civilians peeked from hiding places. Some ran. Viril walked out alone to greet him. "I am Chancellor Viril," he said in a careful voice. "Welcome, human." "Admiral Reyes," he answered. "We came because you asked for help." Viril nodded. "Yes, and you helped. But your way is not like ours." Reyes looked around, at the damaged buildings, the frightened faces. "No," he said. "It's not." In the council hall. The first conversation, Reyes entered the hall, walking with slow, respectful steps. His 2 guards stayed at the bay door. The council sat in silence, watching him carefully. "We have many questions," Viril began. "Ask," Reyes said. "Why did you attack so quickly? Why did you come with weapons drawn?" Reyes answered calmly. "Your message said civilians were dying, that your cities were under attack. We don't wait when lives are in danger." "But our allies normally begin with talks," said one counselor. "You dropped bombs." "Our enemies don't talk," Reyes said. "They kill first, so we stop them first." The council was quiet. Finally, Viril asked, "What do you want from us?" Reyes stood straight. "Nothing." That made the council stir. "No resources? No land? No payment?" Reyes shook his head. "We didn't come to take. We came to protect." Viril studied his face. "And why would Deathworlders care about us?" Reyes's eyes were steady. "Because no one else came." On the ground, stories. Spread word of the human commander's meeting spread across Thalkur. Some citizens still feared the Terrans. They were huge, cold, quiet, but others had seen something different. In the ruins of Telran City, a human soldier had lifted a collapsed wall to save a Thalkuri child. In the Sky Harbor, humans gave up their food rations to feed injured families. And in the Crystal Gardens, a human medic spent 3 nights healing the elderly without sleep. "They're not what I expected," said a Thalkuri teacher. "They're rough," said another, "but they care." Dreknar warship, somewhere in deep space. Inside a burning command ship, a Dreknar officer limped through a dark hallway. "The humans, they don't fight like others," he muttered. The Dreknar General Lord Krax growled from his throne. "They're just another species." "No, my lord," the officer whispered. "They're not. They enjoy the fight. They seek it." Krax laughed. "Then we'll give them more." "Caution, my lord. They came fast, strong, too strong." Krax slammed his clawed fist down. "Then we bring the full fleet." 3 days later, a second fleet arrives. A Thalkuri sensor station picked up. "Strange readings." "More ships," said the technician. "Big ones, not human, Dreknar design." Alarms rang. "They're returning?" gasped Viril. But this time, the Thalkuri didn't panic. Instead, they sent a simple message. To the Terran fleet, "The Dreknar have returned. We request your aid." Again, Terran fleet mobilizes on the TNS Vengeance. Reyes smiled as the message came in. "Good," he said. "They're starting to trust us." Captain Marin frowned at the display. "The enemy fleet is 10 times bigger than last time." Reyes cracked his knuckles. "Finally a proper fight. He opened comms to all ships, all units, battle stations. This is not defense, this is strike back. Planetary sky. Terran and Dreknar fleets face off. The sky over. Thalcor was filled with warships again, but this time, the humans were ready. Terran dreadnoughts moved into position. Fighters launched in waves. Giant cannons charged. The Dreknar roared across open comms. "You are not part of this war, humans. Leave or be destroyed." Reyes replied, "We are now." Scene ends. In the skies of a once peaceful world, two massive fleets prepared for war. On the ground, Thalcori civilians watched from shelters, and for the first time, they felt something new. Not fear, hope, because the Deathworlders were still here, and they weren't finished yet. The sky above Thalcor turned dark again. Dreknar warships came in waves, huge, black, sharp-edged monsters with glowing red engines. There were more than before, hundreds of them. Their shapes filled the sky like a swarm of metal dragons. Inside, the floating cities, the Thalcori looked up with fear. "They came back," a child whispered, but this time no one ran, because above them, the Terran fleet stood waiting. Aboard the TNS Vengeance, Terran flagship Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge, calm as always. The battle map showed the Dreknar fleet moving into attack position. Enemy ships were everywhere: carriers, destroyers, heavy cruisers. Reyes cracked his neck and gave the order. "Activate shield wall protocol. Lock down civilian zones, all weapons hot." Lights turned red across the ship. Fighters launched from hangars. Cannons rotated into place. Captain Marin looked at him. "This is going to be messy." Reyes smiled. "Good. Ground level." Thalcori Capital Sergeant Dax stood on a rooftop, watching enemy drop pods fall from the sky like fireballs. "All squads," he spoke into his comm. "New guests coming down. Set up the welcome mat." Human Marines moved fast, dropping barriers, setting up turrets, and guiding Thalcori civilians to safe zones. Drones flew in the air, scanning the landing zones. A young Thalcori ran up to Dax, eyes wide. "Are we going to die?" Dax handed the child a piece of candy from his pocket. "Not today, kid." Then he turned to face the drop pods. "Let's show them what Deathworlders do." In orbit, the battle begins. The Dreknar fleet fired first. Red beams shot across space, striking human shields. Explosions lit up the darkness. But the Terran fleet didn't panic. Instead, they moved with precision. Terran dreadnoughts returned fire, sending giant blue blasts into Dreknar lines. Smaller Terran ships flew in tight squads, weaving between missiles and lasers. Fighter jets danced through space like wasps, cutting through Dreknar wings. The Dreknar had numbers. The humans had firepower, speed, and experience. And they were angry. Dreknar flagship. Command Room Lord Crack stood, tail lashing in fury. "What are these creatures?" he shouted. "Why do they fight like this?" His second officer, bleeding from a head wound, gasped. "They don't fight to win. They fight like it's their home," Cracks roared. "Then we burn their spirit." He gave the order. "Send the ground troops. Take the cities. Show them fear." Thalcori cities. Invasion. Begins. Dreknar dropships slammed into the ground. Troops poured out, armored beasts with claws, plasma rifles, and thick hide. They rushed toward Thalcori zones, expecting weak defenses. Instead, they ran into humans. The first Dreknar squad met Sergeant Dax's unit. The aliens charged with war. Cries. Dax didn't flinch. He raised his plasma rifle and fired. Clean, quick, brutal. His squad followed. In less than 20 seconds, the enemy was down. "They don't learn," Dax muttered. Then more came. A full wave. Hundreds. The rooftop battle. The rooftop shook as a Dreknar warrior landed hard, smashing through a wall. Dax pulled. His knife and turned. The Dreknar roared. "You die here, Deathworlder!" Dax smiled under his helmet. "Try me." They charged. It was brutal. Close. loud. The Dreknar had strength, but Dax had speed, training, and rage. He ducked, slid under the Dreknar's swing, and stabbed upward, right through the armor joint. The Dreknar fell. Dax wiped his blade. One down. Meanwhile, in the sky, Terran bombers flew low over enemy lines, dropping smart bombs that exploded only near Dreknar tech. Human mechs, tall metal walkers, stomped through battlefields, clearing paths for evac teams. Above, a Terran cruiser rammed a Dreknar ship mid-air. Both exploded. Human pilots called it aggressive negotiation. Thalkuri Council. Hall inside the main chamber, the council watched battle footage with wide eyes. "They are not soldiers," whispered one elder. "They are predators." "But they protect us," said Viril. "They shield us with their bodies." "They kill," said another. "They kill to save," Viril replied. "We asked for help. We didn't understand what help from Deathworlders means." The room fell quiet. Enemy prisoner. New information. A human recon unit captured a wounded Dreknar commander. Inside a secure room, Reyes spoke to him directly. "You came for a peaceful world." "Why?" the Dreknar spat. "Because they are soft, easy to conquer." Reyes's eyes narrowed. "And you thought no one would come?" "No one should have come," the alien growled. "They have weak allies, useless friends. You are something else." Reyes leaned in. "You thought wrong." A growing fear. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread fast, faster than anyone expected. Other alien species watched the reports with shock. One diplomat whispered to another, "The humans? We thought they were new to space." "New," the other replied, "but not weak. They fight with fire. No, they are fire." The turning point. Trap-set Terran command picked up a pattern. The Dreknar fleet was trying to pull them into an ambush near Thalkor's twin moons. Reyes studied the map. "They want us to chase," Captain Marin asked. "Do we?" Reyes smirked. "Of course, moon ambush." The reverse Terran ships followed as planned, but sent drones ahead first. The Dreknar fleet waited, weapons ready. Then, nothing, no humans came. Instead, the asteroid belt behind them exploded. A Terran demolition team had mined the rocks, and now the debris smashed into the Dreknar fleet from behind. "Trap within a trap," Marin said with a grin. Reyes nodded. "That's how Deathworlders play. Final ground." Push on Thalkur, Dax led a final strike into the Dreknar command base. His unit moved through fire, smoke, and wreckage. Enemy snipers waited on rooftops. Drones jammed comms. Didn't matter. Dax used hand signs, old Earth style. His team followed without a word. They breached the final wall. Dax tossed a stun grenade. Boom! Silence. Then he walked in, the Dreknar inside. Tried to surrender. Dax only said one thing. "You came to kill civilians. You're lucky we're nicer than you." He tied them up and called evac aftermath. The Dreknar retreat. Across the system, Dreknar forces pulled back. Ships jumped into deep space. Ground troops surrendered or died. Thalkur was safe again, thanks to humans, thanks to the Deathworlders. Scene ends. In the burned streets of the capital, Thalkuri children ran to human soldiers, giving them flowers, drawing pictures on their armor. Dax took off his helmet. His face was scarred, but his eyes were kind. "You're not monsters," a child said. "No," Dax replied, smiling a little. "We're just human." The battle for Thalkur was not over. The Dreknar had suffered heavy losses, but they were not finished. Deep in space, their leaders sent a final message. "Bring the full fleet. Bring the siege weapons. We will make these Deathworlders bleed." And so the largest Dreknar force ever assembled moved toward Thalkur, a war armada stretching across the stars. The final siege had begun. Terran command, orbit above. Thalkur Admiral Reyes stood before the holomap. Red dots filled the screen. each one a Dreknar ship. Hundreds, maybe more. Captain Marin stared at it, then said, "This is going to be the biggest battle of our lives." Reyes nodded. "Good. They'll hit the planet too. They'll try to break through our ground lines. Then we hold the skies," Reyes replied, "and we make them regret coming here." He turned to the comms officer. "Broadcast to all Terran ships and ground forces." The message was short. "They're bringing everything. So will we." The planet below, preparing for war on. The surface of Thalkur, the humans were busy. Marines built bunkers around the cities. Mechs stood in place like sleeping giants. Artillery guns were placed on mountain cliffs. Drones zipped in the air, scanning every corner. Thalkuri civilians watched in silence. "They do not rest," said one elder. "They do not sleep." "No," replied Chancellor Viril, "because they are made for war." Sergeant Dax walked through the shelter zones, checking defenses. A Thalkuri medic approached him. "We wish to help. We have no weapons, but we can assist your wounded." Dax smiled. "That's more than enough. We'll protect you. You help us stand." The enemy arrives. It began with darkness. The Dreknar fleet jumped into the system in silence. No warning, no message. One moment the sky was clear. The next it was full of monsters, enormous battleships, some the size of cities, siege cruisers with giant plasma cannons, swarms of fighters. From the ground it looked like a second night sky had formed. And then they fired. The siege begins. Fire in the skies. The first Dreknar salvo struck hard. Terran defense ships were hit, some torn in half, some burning as they fell toward the planet. But the humans didn't break. Reyes barked orders. "Return. Fire. V formation. Focus on their carriers first." Terran ships moved like a blade through the firestorm. Dreadnoughts rotated to shield damaged allies. Gunships moved fast, firing with deadly aim. Then came the Terran superweapon. From the belly of the TNS Vengeance, a large cannon began to charge, drawing energy from the ship's core. "Target acquired," said the weapons officer. "Enemy siege carrier." Reyes gave the order. "Fire!" A beam of pure white energy exploded forward, faster than light, hotter than a star. It pierced the enemy ship clean through. Silence followed. Then the enemy ship split in half and exploded. One kill. Hundreds of enemy fighters paused for just 1 second, and that was enough. Terran fighters struck back hard, taking down dozens of Dreknar ships in moments. Ground battle, cities. Under attack, the Dreknar began dropping troops again, more than ever before. Thousands of pods landed across Thalkur. In the capital, Sergeant Dax stood with his squad. Their armor was scratched, their eyes tired, but none of them stepped. "Back! Third wave incoming," said his sniper. "Good," Dax replied. "I was starting to get bored. The streets became a war zone. Dreknar troopers stormed in. Humans met them head-on. Grenades flew. Bullets screamed. Explosions shook buildings. Still, the line held. Dax saw a Thalkuri family trapped behind rubble. He rushed forward, lifting debris with his exosuit and dragging them to safety. A Dreknar warrior lunged at him. Too slow. Dax spun and fired point blank. The alien dropped. Next, the rescue mission. Behind enemy lines far from the main battle, a small Thalkuri hatchery had been surrounded by Dreknar troops. Inside, dozens of alien younglings and caretakers waited in fear. Terran Command received the signal. Reyes didn't hesitate. "Send in Shadow Team." 10 elite Marines dropped in silently from orbit. Black armor, no lights, no noise. They moved like ghosts. One Dreknar sentry turned. Too late. The humans took out the entire enemy camp in under 5 minutes. Then, they opened the hatchery doors. The Thalkuri inside gasped. One Marine removed her helmet and said simply, "You're safe now." In the council hall, watching the battle, the Thalkuri Council watched a live feed of the sky. Human ships moved like machines, deadly and beautiful. They are not peaceful. said one counselor. No, Viriel said, but they are good. Another counselor asked, and what happens when the Dreknar are gone? Will the humans leave? Viriel looked out the window. I think they will, because they never came to conquer. They came because we cried for help. Back in orbit, the turning point, the Dreknar fleet was losing ships fast, but they still had numbers. Then they made a mistake. They sent their flagship, the Burning Claw, into a charge, trying to break through to the planet. Reyes saw it coming. Redirect the Vengeance, all fire on that ship. Terran ships moved into a tight wall. Every cannon fired. Every missile launched. The Burning Claw pushed forward. And then, with a final blast, the human dreadnought TNS Honorbound rammed the enemy ship at full speed. Both ships exploded. Silence. Then cheers echoed across human comms. The enemy flagship was gone. Planet surface. The final push with their command broken, the Dreknar on the surface lost coordination. Dax led the charge, pushing the Dreknar back out of the cities. Thalkuri volunteers helped carry the wounded, bring supplies, and even reprogram medical drones. Not bad, Dax said to a young Thalkuri helper. We learn fast, the alien replied. Good, Dax smiled. You'll need it if we're friends now. Victory. The sky clears ours. Later, the last Dreknar ship jumped away. The sky cleared, the stars returned, and for the first time in weeks, the people of Thalkur saw peace again. Aftermath, losses and lessons. The Terrans had lost ships. Many soldiers were wounded. Some had died, but they had won. Reyes stood before a memorial on the surface. Small stones, each with a name. Thalkuri child placed a glowing flower on one of the stones. Thank you, the child whispered. Reyes nodded. They were here for you. Scene ends. Above Thalkur, the human fleet floated silently, not as invaders, not as rulers, but as protectors. And across the stars, others were watching. They had seen what happened when a weak world cried for help, and Deathworlders answered. The sky above Thalkur was quiet now. The stars shone again. No Dreknar warships, no fire, no screams, only peace. The war was over, but the memory of it would never leave. Thalkuri capital. Days after the battle, Chancellor Viriel stood on a high platform overlooking the city. The ruins were being cleaned, buildings repaired, gardens replanted. But something was different. Thalkuri and humans were working together. Terran soldiers helped rebuild homes. Human engineers fixed water systems. Drones buzzed overhead, lifting heavy supplies. Children from both species laughed in the streets. Deathworlders had become guardians. Memorial ceremony, city center. A huge crystal square was built in the heart of the capital. Today, it was filled with thousands of beings, Thalkuri civilians, human marines, medics, and officers. At the front stood a long stone wall. On it were carved the names of every Terran and Thalkuri who had died in the defense of the planet. Flowers and candles lay at the base. Admiral Reyes stood beside Chancellor Viriel. Viriel stepped forward to speak. We sent out a message, he said, voice soft but clear. It was meant for our allies, for those we knew, but it was heard by strangers. Strangers from a death world. He paused. And those strangers came not to take, but to give, not to rule, but to protect. Applause echoed through the square. Some wept. Some just stood in silence. Then Admiral Reyes stepped up. We came because you needed help, he said. That's what humans do. We answer. He looked at the crowd. I know we scared you. We fight hard. We're loud, we're rough, but we fight for peace. Because we know what war costs. He looked at the stone wall. And we never forget those who paid that price. Later, on board the TNS Vengeance, the fleet was preparing to leave. Ships were being resupplied. Wounded were being loaded onto medical vessels. Drones packed gear and materials. Sergeant Dax sat on the ramp of a transport polishing his rifle. A Thalkuri child ran up to him. "You're going?" the child asked. Dax nodded. "Yeah, our job's done." The child looked down. "I'll miss you." Dax smiled. "We'll be watching the stars. If trouble comes again, we'll be back." He stood, handed the child a Terran patch with the human symbol, a rising star over Earth. "Hold on to that," he said. "You're family now. Council Hall. Final meeting, Viril, and the council met with Reyes and his team." One counselor asked, "Will you make a base here?" Reyes shook his head. "No need. We don't occupy. We respond." "Will you accept trade with us?" Another asked. Reyes smiled. "We'd like that, and we'll introduce you to the wider galaxy. But it's your choice." Viril looked at him with deep respect. "You saved our world, not just with weapons, but with heart." Reyes nodded. "You called. We answered. That's all." Elsewhere, in the depths of space, the Dreknar were quiet now, their fleets broken, their pride shattered. In a dark war room, Dreknar leaders gathered. One slammed a clawed fist on the table. "How did we lose? We had power, numbers, fire." An elder Dreknar growled, "We fought warriors. We expected prey." "They're from a death world," another hissed. "They live with storms, beasts, volcanoes. They fight to survive. They protect with fury." "They are not like others," one whispered. "They are human." Galactic Council, emergency meeting. Across the galaxy, hundreds of species gathered in a grand hall. News of the Terran response had spread far and fast. Every screen played the same video. Terran ships diving into fire. Human marines protecting civilians. Deathworlders dying for people they'd never met. The hall buzzed with fear and curiosity. A three-eyed ambassador spoke first. "The humans have shown great strength and great mercy," said another. "But what happens if they are angered?" a third asked. Silence. Then an elder alien, wise and calm, spoke last. "They came when no one else did. That must mean something." Heads nodded slowly. A small planet. A new signal far from Thalkur, in a quiet part of space, a small blue planet was under attack. Its people were peaceful. They had no ships, no weapons, no hope. In desperation, they sent out a distress signal. A weak message, barely enough to be noticed. "Help us, please. We are dying." The signal floated through space, past dead satellites and silent stars. For a moment, it seemed no one would hear. Earth, Terran Response Network. Inside a command station, the signal was received. A screen blinked. "Distress signal received. Unknown planet. Unidentified species." The AI translated the message. Captain Marin, now promoted, walked in with a cup of coffee. "What's this?" she asked. The tech replied, "New cry for help, real time, uncoded." She sipped her drink and smiled. "Send it to Reyes." Aboard the new Terran flagship, TNS Deliverance Admiral Reyes stood before a new crew. Older now, wiser, still strong. He read the message. Another planet. Another cry. He didn't even blink. "Prep the fleet," he said. "We're going." Final scene. Fleet. Launch Terran ships rose from Earth's orbit like silver arrows. Engines roared. Lights blinked. Cannons warmed. And then the fleet jumped to light speed. A new world needed help, and Deathworlders were on the way.